The 49ers may have just made a mistake almost nobody is talking about, and it could quietly cost them a valuable 2027 draft pick. Jauan Jennings still being unsigned sounds harmless, but for a team that built its dynasty through hidden late-round gems, this could turn into a much bigger problem than anyone expected. But the strange Brandon Aiyuk situation might make things even worse. The San Francisco 49ers may have a much bigger problem brewing than most fans realize, and it has nothing to do with their first-round pick. It has nothing to do with Brandon Aiyuk's future either. Instead, it all comes down to one player who still hasn't signed anywhere, Jauan Jennings. At first glance, Jennings remaining unsigned does not seem like a major issue. Some fans may even think it leaves the door open for him to eventually return. But for the 49ers, every move matters when it comes to the compensatory pick formula, and Jennings not signing before the deadline could quietly cost them a valuable draft pick in 2027. That matters because the 49ers have built one of the smartest roster-building systems in football. Since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over in 2017, no team in the NFL has gained more compensatory picks than San Francisco. They have used those extra selections to add depth, find hidden talent, and keep the roster competitive even after losing key veterans. And here is where it gets interesting. Jennings likely would have counted toward that formula if he had signed a decent contract somewhere else before the Monday after the draft. Even a deal worth less than $10 million per year probably would have been enough to help San Francisco earn an extra late-round pick. But because he is still sitting on the market, that pick may never happen. That may not sound like a huge loss right now. We are talking about a 6th or 7th rounder, not a first-round star. But this is the same franchise that once used a compensatory pick to draft Brock Purdy with the final pick in the draft. And what happens next could make this entire situation even more complicated. Since 2017, the 49ers have treated compensatory picks almost like a secret weapon. While most fans focus only on the first round, San Francisco has quietly built one of the deepest rosters in football by mastering the extra picks other teams overlook. Since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over, the 49ers have earned 28 compensatory selections, more than any other team in the NFL. That is not by accident. The 49ers understand that every free agent loss can turn into future value if they manage the roster correctly. They rarely panic when good players leave because they know those departures can become extra draft picks later. And those extra picks matter because San Francisco has repeatedly found impact players outside the spotlight. The biggest example is Brock Purdy. He was selected with the very last pick in the 2022 draft, pick number 262. Most teams would view that selection as meaningless. But for the 49ers, it turned into one of the greatest value picks in NFL history. What makes that story even crazier is that Purdy was selected with a compensatory pick the team received after losing C.J. Beathard in free agency. That single pick completely changed the direction of the franchise. Instead of spending massive money or giving away multiple first-round picks for a quarterback, San Francisco found a starter at the absolute end of the draft. And Purdy is not the only example. The 49ers have built key depth pieces and rotational players through later rounds for years, which is one reason they have remained contenders despite injuries, departures, and expensive contracts. That is why losing even one future 6th or 7th round pick matters so much more than people think. The 49ers know that one overlooked selection can become a future starter, a hidden weapon, or even the next face of the franchise. But that is exactly why the Jauan Jennings situation suddenly feels a lot bigger than it first appeared. The Brandon Aiyuk situation has quietly become one of the strangest storylines surrounding the 49ers this offseason. Just a year ago, he looked like one of the team's most important long-term pieces. He had become their top separator at wide receiver, their most reliable route runner, and one of the few players on the roster capable of creating explosive plays without needing a perfect scheme around him. But now, suddenly, nobody seems fully sure what his future looks like. John Lynch recently admitted there is still a chance Aiyuk could be moved, even if he said it is not the most likely outcome. That alone raised eyebrows because it confirmed that the team has at least explored trade possibilities behind the scenes. Lynch also made it clear that the 49ers wanted to wait until after league meetings and the NFL draft before making any final decision, because those are the biggest moments when trade talks usually intensify. The strange part is that Aiyuk is technically still on the roster, but he feels like a player stuck in limbo. There is uncertainty about his health, uncertainty about whether another team would even want to absorb his contract, and uncertainty about whether San Francisco still views him as part of the long-term plan. Some reports suggest the 49ers could eventually release him if they cannot find a trade partner after the draft. Others believe the team may simply hold onto him and hope his value improves later in the offseason. Some fans believe the 49ers are trying to quietly move on because of how much money is already tied up in other stars across the roster. Rumors claim the team could prefer getting younger and cheaper at wide receiver, especially with the draft considered strong at that position. The problem is that moving on from Aiyuk is not as simple as it sounds. He is still one of the most talented receivers on the team, and replacing his production would not be easy. But the biggest issue with Aiyuk may not even be money anymore. For most NFL teams, the biggest concern with a player like Brandon Aiyuk would be the salary cap. But for the 49ers, the bigger issue may actually be something far more limited: roster spots. Right now, Aiyuk is still taking up one of San Francisco's 90 offseason roster spots. That may not seem important in April, especially when the team still has room to work with. But once the draft ends, everything changes. The 49ers currently have around 15 open spots left, and those will disappear quickly once rookies, undrafted free agents, and veteran signings start pouring in. That is where things suddenly become complicated. Every single open spot after the draft becomes valuable because it represents another chance to find a hidden contributor. One extra offensive lineman, one young edge rusher, one developmental receiver, one undrafted rookie who could surprise people in training camp. The 49ers know better than most teams that those players matter because they have built so much of their roster through late-round picks and overlooked talent. That is why carrying Aiyuk into the summer may eventually come with a real opportunity cost. If the roster starts to fill up and San Francisco wants to bring in another player, they may have to decide whether keeping Aiyuk around is still worth it, especially if he is not fully healthy, not participating, or still unlikely to be traded. The hardest part is that NFL evaluation is never perfect. Teams miss on players every year. Sometimes a late-round pick becomes a star. Sometimes an undrafted rookie becomes impossible to ignore. This is the same franchise that found Brock Purdy with the final pick in the draft. At the time, nobody expected him to become anything more than a backup. Now he is one of the most important players on the roster. That is why the final roster spot matters so much more than people think. And if the 49ers find someone they truly believe in after the draft, they may be forced to make a decision on Aiyuk much sooner than expected. The 49ers are entering this draft with a strange problem. They need immediate help at several positions, but they only have 6 picks to work with. That is not a lot for a team that still has major questions at wide receiver, offensive line, and edge rusher. Because of that, this draft could go in almost any direction. John Lynch has already hinted that the team is open to moving around the board. If there is a player they truly love, the 49ers could package picks together and trade up. But if they feel the class is deep and the value is better later, they could just as easily trade down and collect more selections. That second option may make more sense this year. The 49ers still have around 15 open roster spots, which means they need as many affordable young players as possible. Reports suggest this draft is especially strong at edge rusher, offensive line, and wide receiver, which just happen to be the team's biggest needs. That creates an interesting opportunity. Instead of aggressively chasing one star prospect, San Francisco could sit back, trade down, and attack those positions with volume. Some fans believe that would be the smartest path because the top of this class is not viewed as especially strong. Rumors claim there are fewer true first-round grades this year than in recent drafts, which could make trading down even more attractive. If the gap between players at pick 20 and pick 50 is smaller than usual, then gaining extra picks may be far more valuable than staying put. The 49ers have also shown they are not afraid to move around the board. Since Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over, San Francisco has consistently traded up, traded down, and reshaped its draft strategy depending on the situation. That unpredictability makes them one of the hardest teams to read entering draft weekend. But there is one past decision that still hangs over every move they make, the trade that changed everything for the franchise. The biggest draft decision of the John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan era still shapes the way fans look at every move the 49ers make, the decision to trade up for Trey Lance. Back in 2021, San Francisco made one of the boldest trades in modern NFL history. The team moved from pick 12 to pick 3 in order to select Lance, giving up multiple future first-round picks in the process. At the time, the move was viewed as aggressive and exciting. The 49ers believed they had found their future franchise quarterback. Lance had the size, the athleticism, and the upside that every team dreams about. But almost immediately, things started going wrong. Lance struggled to stay healthy. He barely played during his first 2 seasons, and when he did get opportunities, he never looked fully comfortable in the offense. Injuries, limited experience, and constant pressure made it difficult for him to develop. Before long, the player the 49ers sacrificed so much to get had completely fallen out of the team's long-term plans. That trade is still remembered as one of the biggest mistakes of the Lynch-Shanahan era because of how much draft capital it cost. Those lost picks could have been used to add starters at multiple positions. Instead, the 49ers were left with almost nothing to show for one of the biggest swings they ever took. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. Just 1 year later, San Francisco used the very final pick in the 2022 NFL Draft on Brock Purdy. He was pick number 262, the last player selected in the entire draft. Most people viewed him as a backup at best, but within months, Purdy had completely changed the direction of the franchise. That is why the 49ers value extra draft picks so much. One massive trade-up nearly set them back years, while one forgotten late-round pick may have saved the entire franchise. The entire Jauan Jennings situation may not seem like a huge story right now, but for the 49ers, it could end up meaning a lot more than people think. If Jennings does not sign with another team before the compensatory pick deadline, San Francisco will likely miss out on an extra selection in the 2027 NFL Draft. For most teams, losing a future 6th or 7th round pick would barely register. Fans would shrug it off and move on, but the 49ers are not built like most teams. Since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over, San Francisco has consistently treated late-round picks like valuable currency. They have used compensatory selections to find hidden depth, future starters, and sometimes even franchise-changing players. That is one of the biggest reasons the team has stayed competitive for so long, even after losing veterans, dealing with injuries, and making expensive mistakes. The perfect example is Brock Purdy. He was not a first-round superstar. He was not even viewed as a serious long-term answer when he entered the league. He was simply the final pick in the draft, a player most teams overlooked. But because the 49ers had that extra pick, they were able to take a chance, and that chance may have saved the franchise after the failed Trey Lance trade. That is why this matters. San Francisco understands that championships are not built only with stars at the top of the draft. They are built through depth, patience, and finding value where other teams are not looking. And with 2027 already viewed as a stronger draft class than 2026, missing out on even one extra pick could hurt more than people realize. Because if the 49ers lose that hidden draft asset because of Jauan Jennings, they may not feel the damage immediately, but they could absolutely feel it a few years from now.